So Halloween Ends is the final film in the David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy, which is itself a sequel to the first Halloween film. And here's the thing. Halloween Ends is very much going to be a polarizing film. I doubt there's going to be much like fence sitting on this film because here's the thing. This film takes some very daring and bold choices that you are either going to love. It's going to like explore areas that Halloween has never gone before, and it's going to be very fascinating and interesting to explore this dynamic. Or you could just be that guy who says, oh man, there wasn't enough Michael Myers in this film. Didn't do much. Because really that's one of the bigger criticisms here. Even though, I mean, come on, this is Halloween. We've had a Halloween film, Season of the Witch, where Michael Myers is literally not in the entire narrative at all. So the idea that we're getting less Michael Myers, you still get more Michael Myers in this film than you would in Season of the Witch. So there's that. So here's the thing. I love how this film kind of like approaches Michael Myers more as an evil force over Haddonfield, rather than just being like, the killer goes around and slashing everyone up again. Because we've already kind of got that with the last two films. Like, in 2018's Halloween, we got to see, Michael Myers finally escape, and Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, finally get her revenge and kind of like come to terms with their trauma. And then Halloween Kills from last year kind of missed the mark because I kind of dig what the film is trying to do. It's trying to like give people, set up like set up Haddonfield as this town where everyone wants revenge on Michael Myers, and that revenge does not, satisfy the soul and doesn't give you the closure that you wanted. Like revenge is messy, and it destroys you more than anything else, and it literally does destroy the survivors at the end of Halloween Kills. I did feel like they kind of misfired a little bit there by essentially like midway in Halloween Kills, there's a moment where the victims who have resorted to like mob violence kind of realizes, oh, maybe we're not doing the right thing. And they just kind of go back to still doing a terrible thing, which I still maintain that's my least favorite film in this Halloween trilogy, especially because the whole film is just, Laurie talking about how she needs to be the one to kill Michael and that evil will die tonight and all that. And thankfully, Halloween Ends takes a much different route. For one, it's got a little bit of a time skip here. So Halloween and Halloween Kills, the last two films, they all took place on Halloween night in 2018. This film starts in the Halloween of 2019. So Michael Myers has basically been on the loose, and nobody knows where he is, but everyone is kind of in fear that he'll strike again. And this fear causes the teenager Corey, played by Rohan Campbell, to basically grow paranoid, and his paranoia ultimately leads to someone being murdered by accident. So, he didn't mean to kill, but it happened. And so we follow with him a few Halloweens later, where he is basically trying to get his life back together, despite the fact that everyone blames him for the murder. So basically, everyone in Haddonfield sees him as the new Michael Myers. And it feels like the only person who can kind of sympathize with him is Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis again. Like, she's fought Michael Myers, she's seen evil, and she recognizes, how people try to, how people like try to deal with tragedy and how they try to live their life through it. And it's kind of interesting to see Laurie in this angle because she seems to have kind of moved on a little bit. She's trying to like get her life together again. Like, she doesn't feel like the paranoid grandma who's in her house lying in wait with a shotgun and traps, just like, Michael Myers is still out there, I'm gonna get him, no, now she's actually kind of like the fun grandma who bakes pies for her granddaughter and talks way openly about sex than you'd expect, and she's flirting with a local police officer in town, and they have a cute dynamic. So for like a little bit of like the first act of the film, you get to see Laurie kind of having a little bit of the happy ending she wants. At the same time, though, I like how the rest of Haddonfield doesn't like let it go about what Laurie has experienced, and kind of, and basically the rest of the town feeling that she's a little bit responsible for what happened with Michael Myers. So every now and then when it feels like Laurie's having a good day, or it feels like everything's going right, that she's coming to terms with her demons, there's that reminder that just shuts her down immediately, just sends her back home, like locking the doors and drinking herself into forgetting about it again. But she's trying, she's trying to live her best life. She's, she's writing her own little memoir about having survived Michael Myers. So she's getting her life together. So it's interesting to see Laurie kind of be faced with someone like Corey, because it's this interesting element to explore of how like survivors can get their life together and try to, move on. But at the same time, question, can they prevent it from happening again if they've tackled this challenge? And it's a thing that Laurie can't quite do. Like, it feels like her granddaughter, Allison, played by Andy Matichak, seems to be on that route, because Allison takes a liking to Corey. And they actually hit it off really well. They have like a little bit of a cute romance going. But just like with Laurie, Corey kept getting reminded of the past. Haddonfield won't let it go. Like, they'll hound him, they'll harass him, they'll bully him. And some of them will just physically assault him and, come pretty close to killing him. So Corey ends up going down this darker and darker pit when eventually he more or less becomes like the new Michael Myers of the town, realizing that, if this town hates me, if they need me to be their new boogeyman, then fine. I'll be the new boogeyman. And it's an aspect that, it troubles Corey, but it's something that also that Allison can kind of understand as well, because she's also, in a similar sense, being targeted the same way that Laurie is. So there's this interesting dynamic between all of them of trying to move on and not being able to, and still finding that the road to recovery is a lot harder. Even when it seems like you found happiness, it still feels like there's more to work for. But where's Michael Myers in all this? Where's Sir Michael? Michael Myers eventually comes up in the second act, and I like the fact that Michael is kind of more of like an inspiration for Corey more than anything else. Like, he represents this evil temptation that draws Corey in. Michael Myers, the mute masked man with with any blunt object or knife to slash someone, won't judge Corey. He'll give him the tools to like do revenge, whereas Laurie tries and struggles to find the right words to bring him back, to the side of basically good. And most of it kind of works. Like, I will admit, there are a lot of scenes here that fall flat. They're set up well, and I love their intentions and the thematic layering over them. But I will admit that there are a lot of scenes that don't work as well as they should, and it's kind of a shame, because it really kind of like takes you out of the film, and it feels like it's being a little bit like not even like tongue-in-cheeky, but kind of like unintentionally humorous at times, for moments where it feels like it's exploring something a lot deeper that just doesn't bubble up the same way that you would hope. That being said, once you get to like the kills in the third act, there's some pretty quality kills. I really like them. There's scenes where people get stabbed repeatedly in very brutal ways. There's scenes where people's heads get crushed in, or someone else's head gets melted by fire. And definitely the most grotesque kill in the film, I will not spoil, but if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. It's the kill at the radio station, which it involves a radio DJ, a vinyl player, his tongue, and a pair of shears. That's all I will say. And if you've seen the scene, you know what it is. Even if you haven't, your imagination can probably guess where that scene is going. So it's interesting how like the film kind of goes down that darker thematic route, but then once it gets to like more of like the kills, because up until like Corey's killing spree in the third act, the second act keeps the kills like very very, very, very simple but brutal. It's mostly just like stabbings and slashings, like almost kind of like very tactile kills. The way that Corey is kind of learning the ropes. And then of course eventually in the third act, he becomes Michael Myers and just he grows up so fast. Is probably what Michael Myers would say. And I find the film so fascinating because it's very messy in how it's trying to interpret, recovery and what Michael Myers represents as this evil force that Haddonfield and Laurie mostly is trying to get over. And it's an interesting theme to explore. I feel like it kind of gets lost in the third act, though. Not just because of the kills, but more because of what Michael Myers represents in like the final showdown between him and Laurie, where it becomes more about, you need help from other people to survive. So like I guess on like kind of like a broader scale, the themes really work towards the end of the film in terms of in terms of like, killing Michael Myers. But here's the thing. It's a film where you kind of have to think about it for a little bit just to, piece it together correctly. Because for most of the film, it's just kind of like, there are so many like scenes that fall flat, and there's also scenes that kind of like play into like a little too much to the grotesque nature of like Michael Myers' kills and basically his immortality that kind of makes the film get a little bit off track. Not fully off track, but it's like, okay, this is getting too goofy. Because look, it's a slasher film. You got to have like some fun with the kills. Like if you're going to have any fun with this material, that would probably be the area where you'd want to do it. But some of it falls flat, and I don't really blame the actors so much. I really love everyone here. Like Rowan Campbell does a fantastic job as Corey. Jamie Lee Curtis is a lot of fun still as Laurie. Even Andy Matichak does a great job, and Will Patton as the sorry, I said officer. He's a deputy. Even him, like he does, they have fine performances, all of them. It's just mostly, I feel it's mostly like the scenes and how they're set up, and kind of like how there's maybe a wee bit of like a tonal whiplash between certain scenes that don't quite make it the great film that it could have been. So like I was a little bit on the fence here, but I feel like the more I think about Halloween Ends, the more I love it. And especially for what it's trying to do. I absolutely adore that it's trying to present Michael Myers more as this temptation of evil that has to be challenged, and that it's a challenge that isn't easy to meet. In the same way that Michael Myers is not a villain that's easy to kill. The thing is, though, it's not built for the audience who. It's not quite built for the same audience who like loved Halloween Kills, which was just nothing but crazy kills the whole time. Just Michael Myers is on the loose. We got to stop him. We can't stop him. He's an indestructible machine. Kill, kill, kill. Oh man, gory deaths, funny deaths. Like I don't know if you remember, there was that death where someone was trying to shoot him and accidentally shot themselves in the head because of a car door, which is a bizarre moment. So if you're looking for that type of film, you might not get it here, unless you're patient enough to sit through like a greater exploration of evil before it gets to all the kind of campy kills in the third act. So it's a very conflicting film. Like it feels like it wants to have its cake and eat it too. It wants to be a little bit of like a more high-minded horror film, but still have all like the fun slasher elements. And for being that daring, I gotta admit, David Gordon Green does a really good job with this material here. I do feel like I said, it gets a little bit lost here just because I think there's 4 writers on this film as opposed to the last 2, which had only 3. And it kind of feels like there is some conflicting messages here and there throughout the narrative. But like I said, the more I thought about this film, the more I love it. And I feel like over time, I feel like the reactionaries are just like immediately, there was enough Michael Myers. I don't like the film. Or I don't know why we focus on Corey, like negating that Corey is taking inspiration from Michael Myers, but whatever. But I feel like, yeah, over time, I feel like this is going to be a film that people appreciate a lot more. And it's definitely going to be one of the better Halloween films, especially for just the bigger themes to explore here. I feel really, really work for the century.